They captured the human, not realizing he would rise against them all. The cell door slammed before Cole Danner even knew he had been taken. 1 second he was breathing recycled air on the forward deck of the research vessel Orion's Edge, watching his crew run diagnostics on the long-range sensor array. The next, a pale blue light swallowed him whole and the deck vanished under his boots. He hit the floor hard. Cold metal, no windows, one dim panel of light buzzing above his head. Cole did not shout. He did not panic. He lay on his back for exactly 4 seconds, ran a full breath through his lungs, and sat up. He was a 41-year-old aerospace engineer from Tucson, Arizona. He had survived 2 shuttle failures, a collapsed mine in the Nevada desert during a geothermal survey, and 3 years of a bad marriage. He was not easily rattled. The room was roughly 8 feet by 10. The walls were smooth, some kind of brushed composite he did not recognize. The air smelled faintly like copper and something sweeter, almost floral. The gravity was close to Earth standard but slightly heavier. His knees told him that immediately. He pressed both palms flat against the floor. Warm. Not quite organic, but not purely mechanical either. The door had no visible seam from the inside. He stood, rolled his shoulders, and began walking the perimeter. 4 walls. He counted his steps. He measured with his handspan. He pressed his ear to each surface and listened. On the far wall he heard the faintest hum, a power conduit running behind the composite. He filed that away. He had been on the Orion's Edge as part of a deep space acoustic mapping mission, charting gravitational wave patterns at the edge of the Kepler belt. It was unglamorous work. Most people did not even know the mission existed. His crew of 6 was young, idealistic, and terrible at poker. He had liked them for all 3 reasons. He wondered if they had been taken too. He pushed that thought aside. One problem at a time. The ceiling panel flickered, then the door opened. 3 figures stepped in. Cole had seen alien biology in classified briefings but never in person. These were roughly humanoid, standing close to 7 feet tall. Their skin was a dark, smooth gray-green, and their eyes were wide-set and pale yellow, with vertical pupils that contracted the moment the light hit them. They wore no obvious weapons. Their clothing, if it could be called that, was a layered garment that shifted color slightly as they moved, like oil on water. The one in the center spoke. The sound was layered, 2 tones at once, one higher and one lower, like a chord struck on an instrument Cole had never heard. It spoke for about 8 seconds. Cole looked at it calmly. I did not understand a word of that. The alien looked at the one on its left. A brief exchange passed between them in those chord tones. Then the center one looked back at Cole and held out something flat and rectangular, roughly the size of a dinner plate. It pressed one end of the object, and a light projected upward, displaying what appeared to be a 3-dimensional scan of a human body. Cole's body, from the scans they had clearly run while he was unconscious. They were studying him. Cole kept his expression neutral. He crossed his arms, not in defiance, but because he was thinking. He looked at the scan, then at the alien, then back at the scan. He pointed at the scan and then at himself. Yes, he said, that is me, Cole Danner. Engineer. He tapped his chest. Cole. The center alien tilted its head at an angle that was almost bird-like. It repeated the sound, warped by its layered voice into something like Cole. Close enough, Cole said. He sat down on the floor cross-legged deliberately. He was not going to stand at attention for them. He was not going to pace, beg, or perform fear. He sat like a man who had time to kill and knew it. The 3 aliens looked at each other again. The one on the right stepped forward and set a small container near Cole's feet. It slid back. The container opened. Inside was water, clear and still. Cole picked it up and smelled it. Odorless. He set it down. He was thirsty, but not yet thirsty enough to drink something he could not verify. He looked back up at them. What do you want? They left without answering. Cole sat in the silence after the door sealed. He looked at the water container. He looked at the walls. He thought about the power conduit behind the far wall. He thought about the scan they had taken, which meant they had technology calibrated to human biology, which meant either they had encountered humans before, or they were fast learners. He thought about the door. It had no seam from inside, but it had opened from outside using what appeared to be a proximity response. No visible keypad or handle, just a standing position trigger. Meaning, the door responded to presence within a certain distance from the outside. He would need to be on the outside. He thought about the 8-second speech the alien had given him, the layered chord language. He had not understood words, but he had noticed rhythm. The speech had a structure. Short phrase, long phrase, short phrase, pause, like a greeting formula. Cole Danner had spent 15 years designing communication systems for spacecraft. He understood at a molecular level that any systems built for transmission had rules, and any system that had rules could be decoded. He reached into his jacket pocket. They had not searched him. That was their first mistake. He pulled out a small aluminum stylus, the kind he used to annotate printouts. He pressed the flat end against the composite wall and began to scratch very faint lines. Not escape plans, not messages, numbers, prime numbers in sequence, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. If they were watching, and he assumed they were, he wanted them to see something specific. He wanted them to see that the creature they had locked in this box was not afraid. He wanted them to see that it was already thinking. The light above him buzzed steadily. Somewhere beyond these walls, in whatever ship or station held him, decisions were being made about what he was worth, and what to do with him next. Cole Danner scratched the number 13 into the wall and smiled very slightly. They had no idea what they had brought aboard. Cole woke on the third cycle. He did not know if they were days or something shorter, but the overhead light dimmed twice between his captures of sleep, and he had decided to call those cycles. It gave him a clock. Humans needed clocks. It was one of the first things they reached for when the world stopped making sense. His water supply had been refreshed once while he slept. He had drunk it on the second cycle, after cataloging every other variable he could. The taste was flat, slightly mineralized, but harmless as far as he could tell. His body confirmed this with no distress. Food had appeared once. A compressed block of something beige and dense. He had broken a small piece off, tasted it, waited an hour, eaten the rest. Calorie-dense, faintly nutty, designed for a biological system. Not human biology specifically, but close enough that his body processed it. They had fed him. That was data. Something that intends to simply discard you does not keep you fed. On the third cycle he had a visitor he had not seen before. The door opened and one alien entered alone, without the other two. This one was slightly shorter than the others. Its coloring lighter, almost a pale sage. It moved differently too, with less of the slow, deliberate quality the first three had shown. It carried a flat panel and sat down on the floor 3 feet from Cole, which surprised him considerably. Cole did not move. The alien placed the panel between them and activated it. The projection that rose was a rotating model of the solar system. Not perfect, the asteroid belt was slightly misplaced, and Mars was rendered oddly large, but unmistakably Sol system. Earth was marked with a pale dot. Cole looked at it. He looked at the alien. The alien's pale yellow eyes watched him with a focused tension that felt less clinical and more curious. Cole reached forward and touched the projection. His finger passed through the light and landed on Earth's dot. He tapped it twice. The alien made a sound, not the chord tone of the others, but a single clear note, like someone striking a small bell. Then it reached forward and touched the projection itself, dragging its size to reveal a wider star map. It moved 3 systems over and tapped a cluster of 4 planets orbiting a cooler star. Cole studied it. "That is where we are?" he asked, pointing at one planet. The alien blinked its vertical pupils slowly, a gesture Cole had already catalogued as possibly affirmative. He pointed at itself, then at the planet cluster. "You're home." It blinked again. Cole exhaled. This was contact, slow, imperfect, full of room for error, but real. He reached into his jacket and removed the stylus. He held it up so the alien could see it clearly, not as a threat, just as a tool. He turned it over in his fingers and then pressed it to the edge of the panel, drawing a small circle. The alien watched with intense focus. Cole drew a second circle beside it, connected them with a line, and drew a third circle at the far end of the line. He pointed at the first circle, then at himself. He pointed at the third circle, then at the alien. He pointed at the line between. The alien stared at the diagram for a long moment. Then it reached out and took the stylus from Cole's hand. Gently, the way you would take something fragile. It studied the stylus for several seconds, then drew its own line, connecting the middle circle to something off the panel's edge, implying something beyond both of them. Cole stared at that line. There was something else out there. Something neither of them was showing on their maps. The alien had volunteered that information, unprompted, and was watching Cole's face carefully as he absorbed it. Cole kept his expression steady. Inside, his mind had already accelerated to a place his face was not showing. He had been captured. That was a fact. He was being studied. Also a fact. But this alien, this one specifically, had come alone, sat on the floor at his level, and drawn a line toward a threat it apparently considered mutual. Cole slowly pointed at the extended line. He pointed at himself. He pointed at the alien. He made a single gesture, both index fingers brought together and touching. The alien held very still. Then it blinked twice. long and slow. He could not be certain what that meant. But the creature's posture had shifted, the coiled, careful tension of it loosening slightly, something releasing. Cole filed everything away and said nothing more. He let the silence sit. Some things said more when you did not push. Over the next 2 cycles, the alien, whom Cole privately named Sam because he needed names for his own sanity, came back 3 more times. Each visit was longer. The communication system they were building was rough and imprecise, a mix of diagrams, pointing, projection, manipulation, and repetition. But it was growing. Cole learned several things. The species called themselves by a sound he approximated as the Virith, though he doubted that was accurate. Their ship was not a warship in any straightforward sense. It was something between a research vessel and a patrol craft, which explained why they had taken him, rather than simply destroyed the Orion's Edge. They were collectors of information, not unlike his own mission, which gave Cole a complicated feeling he chose not to examine too closely. He also learned that there were 6 other humans somewhere on the ship. He had suspected this. Sam confirmed it by projecting 6 small human silhouettes alongside Cole's on the display, all of them marked with small indicators Cole could not read. He pointed at them with a question in his posture, and Sam touched each indicator with something that looked like concern rather than indifference. They were alive. Something was happening to them that Sam did not look pleased about. Cole stood up from the floor for the first time in the conversation. "Take me to them." Sam blinked. "Take me to my people," Cole said, and his voice had changed. Not loud, not threatening, but the tone that had built 3 communication relay towers in 3 different countries and talked a panicking crew through a decompression event at 400,000 feet came into it quietly. Sam stared at him for a long moment. Then Sam stood too. What happened next was not what Cole expected. Sam did not call guards. Sam did not leave to consult others. Sam walked to the wall and pressed 3 fingers to it in a specific pattern, and the door opened, and Sam looked back at Cole and waited. Cole had no weapons. He had a stylus and 15 years of engineering experience, and the ability to stay calm while everything fell apart. He walked through the door. The corridor outside was longer than he had imagined, curving gently upward in both directions, lit by that same soft copper-tinted light. The air was warmer out here, and the gravity shifted slightly, a half-degree difference that put weight in his heels. He noted everything, the spacing of the panels in the wall, the slight tremor in the floor that spoke to an engine running below. The light brightened incrementally as they walked a certain direction. They were heading toward the center of the ship, toward power. Sam walked slightly ahead, occasionally glancing back with those pale yellow eyes. Not checking that Cole was following, checking that Cole was watching, observing, taking it in, like it wanted him to understand the place he was in. Cole understood something else entirely. He understood that Sam had made a choice tonight that the other Virith on this ship did not know about. He understood that he was being shown things for a reason. And he understood that whatever was down the corridor ahead of them, whatever was happening to his 6 crewmates, it had crossed a line even Sam could not ignore. Cole said nothing. He walked and he watched, and he began building the map in his head, wall by wall, panel by panel, step by step. He had not yet decided what he was going to do, but he was going to do something. The door Sam opened at the end of the corridor was not locked. That told Cole more than any word could. Whatever was inside, Sam was not afraid of being caught bringing him here. The other Virith either did not care or did not know. Cole stepped through and stopped. The room was large, a circular chamber roughly 40 feet across, with a high domed ceiling and 6 raised platforms arranged like spokes around a central unit. On each platform was a person. Cole recognized 3 of them immediately. Len Carver, his youngest engineer, 26, still had his blue-tagged field jacket. Diane Okafor, the mission's acoustic specialist, eyes closed, chest moving slowly. Pete Garland, navigation, curled on his side facing the wall. The other 3 he knew less well, brought on late as backup survey crew. A young woman named May Hollis, 2 men named Owen Cruz and Sal Torres. All 6 were breathing. All 6 were unconscious. Each platform had a unit attached at the base, something pulsing with soft blue light, and thin filament-like lines running from the unit up to a collar around each person's neck. Cole looked at Sam. Sam pointed at the central unit, made a gesture with both hands, a spreading motion, then a clenching motion. Cole read it as extraction. The units were pulling something out of them. Memory, neural pattern, something that required sustained contact with the brain. Cole pointed at the collars. "Are they in pain?" Sam blinked once, slow, yes. Cole's jaw tightened. He looked at the central unit. It was not much larger than a car engine, mounted on a platform with 4 thick attachment points. He walked to the nearest filament connection and crouched to look at it without touching. The filament was semi-organic, a flexible conduit that pulsed with each cycle of the light. The collar had 2 attachment points at the back of the neck, just below the skull. He looked at the central unit and then at Sam. Who authorized this? Sam touched its own forehead, then gestured toward the door they had come through, in the direction of the upper decks. Command authorized it. Cole stood. He looked at each of his people in turn. Len's hands were clenched in his sleep. Diane's mouth was pressed into a thin line. Pete had worked for him for 4 years. Pete sent his mother birthday messages that made grown engineers tear up when he read them aloud on long missions. Cole turned to Sam. I need you to tell me everything about this ship. Sam blinked. Structure. Command. How many are aboard? How decisions are made? What authority you hold? He held up the stylus. And I need a bigger writing surface. Sam was quiet for a moment. Those pale eyes moved between Cole and the 6 sleeping figures. Then, Sam did something Cole had not seen either of the other Virithid do. Sam sat down on the floor of this room, among these sleeping humans, and began to draw. Over the next several hours, Cole learned the shape of his cage. The ship was called something in Virith language he rendered as the Tarvath. It carried 62 crew, a command structure of 7, and a directive that classified Cole's crew as Category 3 specimens, a designation Sam communicated with barely concealed displeasure. The extraction process was intended to map human cognitive architecture for use in the development of a translation system, a fact Sam conveyed with what appeared to be the Virith equivalent of irony, given that no one had asked the humans for consent. The command structure operated with a single senior authority at the top. A Virith Sam drew larger than the others and marked with 2 lines, whom Cole mentally named the Director. The Director had authorized the extraction. The Director also held authority over departure and course. Cole looked at the diagrams spread between them on the floor. He had 2 assets: the information Sam was giving him freely, and the fact that Command did not yet know that Sam was doing it. He had 1 liability. He did not know how long the extraction process took, or what it would do to his crew if it ran to completion. He had 1 tool, his own brain. He pointed at Sam and made a small gesture, a hand pressed flat and lowered slightly, the universal signal he had been using to mean wait. Sam waited. Cole thought for 11 minutes. He counted them. Then he started asking very specific questions. The ventilation system on a ship like this was not a passive element. In a craft operating in deep space, air circulation was tied directly to temperature regulation, which was tied directly to the power grid. On human ships Cole had worked with, the ventilation override existed as a safety mechanism against fire. On a ship this size, with a crew of 62, the same principle almost certainly applied. Sam drew the layout when asked. The ventilation nodes were located at 6 points around the ship's central ring, each one controlled from a single distribution panel. Sam hesitated when drawing this, and Cole recognized the hesitation as reluctance rather than ignorance. Sam knew exactly what Cole was thinking. Cole did not push. He just waited with the steady patience of a man who had already made his decision and was not in a hurry about it. Sam completed the drawing. Cole nodded once. He stood and looked at his crew. He needed them mobile. He needed them awake. He needed them to be able to move on instruction without full understanding of the situation, because there would not be time to explain. He looked at the collar on Diane's neck. He looked at the attachment points. He looked at the pulsing filaments. He pointed at the collar and looked at Sam. How do I remove it? Sam got up and walked to Diane's platform. Sam reached down and pressed a specific sequence of contact points at the collar's base. The pulsing slowed. Sam lifted the collar free with no apparent resistance. Diane stirred. She blinked, disoriented, and then her eyes found Cole. Cole, she said. Her voice was rough. Don't sit up fast, he said. Give it 30 seconds. She listened. She always listened. That was why he had kept her on 3 consecutive missions. Cole looked at Sam. All of them. Sam removed the remaining 5 collars one at a time, methodically, and each person stirred into slow wakefulness. Cole moved between them, 1 hand on a shoulder here, a quiet word there. Keep your voice low. Do not make sudden movement. We are not under immediate threat. Follow my lead and ask questions later. Len Carver, who had never once in 4 years of working with Cole done anything without asking 3 follow-up questions, looked at the Virith, standing among them, and said nothing at all. He just looked at Cole with wide eyes and nodded. Cole turned back to Sam. He pointed at the ventilation panel Sam had drawn. He pointed at the 6 humans behind him, He pointed at himself. And then he began to tell Sam, in their rough, clumsy borrowed language of points and drawings and blinks, exactly what he needed Sam to do. Everything that happened next happened fast. Sam left through a secondary corridor Cole had not known existed before tonight. That surprised him. But Sam had been volunteering surprises all evening, and Cole had learned to receive them without breaking stride. He turned to his crew. 6 people, unsteady on their feet, with the look of people who had been partially somewhere else, and had not fully returned. He had seen that look on people after long sedation. The body comes back before the mind does. He did not waste time on comfort. Listen, short version. We are on an alien ship somewhere in the Kepler belt. The extraction you experienced was unauthorized by anyone in your chain of command, and we are leaving. I need each of you functional for about 40 minutes. Can you do that? Diane was already standing straight. Len nodded. Pete pushed himself upright on sheer will. What's the plan? Sam, Cole said. Diane looked at him. The alien? Yes. Sam is going to trigger a ventilation fault at the main distribution panel. When it does, 6 of the ship's 7 command decks will enter a pressure balancing cycle that seals internal corridors as a safety measure. That gives us a 12-minute window in which the path between here and the docking bay is unmonitored and unsecured. Owen Cruz, who had been silent until now, raised a hand. You figured all of that out from pointing at drawings? Sam is very patient, Cole said. He moved to the door. The Orion's edge is in the docking bay. I know this because the Tarvith's tractor system is calibrated for a vessel of our mass, and that calibration unit is the same one Sam drew when explaining how we got here. Our ship is intact. If they had moved it to another facility, Sam would have drawn a second ship. Sam did not draw a second ship. He looked at each of them. Stay close. Move when I move. Stop when I stop. Do not touch anything on the walls and do not speak to any virus we encounter. I will handle communication. They moved. The corridor outside the chamber was still empty. Cole had counted the ship's crew rotation patterns as best he could from Sam's diagrams. The outer ring had the highest traffic during what he estimated as their peak cycle, but they were now well past it. Foot traffic should be at its lowest for the next 20 minutes. He moved at a pace that was not quite running, the deliberate quick walk of someone who belongs where they are going. His crew matched it. He heard their breathing, controlled, frightened, trusting. 3 minutes in, they passed a Virith moving in the opposite direction. Cole did not slow. He made brief eye contact, tilted his head in what he hoped passed for a casual nod, and kept walking. The Virith stopped for 1/2 second, then continued on. Cole counted 15 steps before he let himself breathe again. The ventilation fault hit at the 4-minute mark, a soft groan in the walls, and a shift in the air pressure that Cole felt in his eardrums. Ahead of them, a panel in the ceiling cycled to red and back to amber. The corridor sealed behind them at the junction they had just cleared. That is our window, Cole said. They moved faster now, and the ship's internal geometry that had seemed labyrinthine when Sam was drawing it resolved cleanly in Cole's memory, because Cole did not forget physical layouts. He had spent too many years in spaces where forgetting a wall could end your life. Left at the pressure junction, straight past the 2 secondary bays. One held equipment too large to identify quickly, the second was sealed. Down a ramp that shifted the gravity slightly lighter, into the lower deck where the docking system lived. The Orion's edge was there. It was smaller than he remembered. Or the bay made it look small, dwarfed by the Tarvith's architecture. But every scratch on the hull was familiar. The slightly bent solar collector on the starboard side that Len had promised to fix and never gotten around to. The mission patch decal Diane had stuck to the airlock door during the 2nd week out. Because she said a ship needed personality. Cole hit the airlock code from memory, 7 digits he had entered 500 times. The door cycled open. Get in and strap in, do not start anything. Wait for my signal. They went. He turned around. Sam was standing at the bay entrance. Cole looked at Sam for a moment. He walked back. He stood in front of Sam, and Sam's pale yellow eyes were doing the quiet watching thing they had been doing since the beginning. Reading Cole's face with that focused, earnest attention. Cole reached into his jacket. He took out the aluminum stylus. He held it out. Sam looked at it. Sam looked at Cole. Cole set it on the floor between them, because he had no other way to say what he needed to say. He pointed at the stylus. He pointed at Sam. He pointed at the line Sam had drawn on that first panel, the one that extended beyond both their maps. Sam picked up the stylus. Cole nodded once. Then he turned and walked into the airlock. The moment the door sealed, Len was already in the pilot seat, and May was running diagnostics with the focused speed of someone who had decided to be terrified later. Systems are clean, May said. They did not touch the drive. Of course they didn't, Cole said, dropping into the command seat. They're researchers. You don't damage what you're studying. He opened the docking bay override from the external panel Sam had quietly unlocked during the ventilation cycle. The bay doors began to move. Cole, Diane said from behind him. Yeah, what was that you left on the floor? A stylus. Why? Because Sam helped us, Cole said. And I did not have a better way to say thank you. The bay doors finished opening. Beyond them was deep space, clean and black and enormous. The Kepler belt glittering in the far distance like a scattered handful of light. Cole took the controls and flew them out. He did not look back. But his hand was on the throttle, and his mind was already moving forward. Already building the next thing, the way it always did. There were 62 Virith on that ship, who had made a decision about what humans were worth. They had made that decision based on what a human looked like when taken by surprise, confused, caged, and studied. They had not seen what a human looked like after he had mapped your ship, turned your own safety systems against you, walked out through a door you forgot to lock, and left a stylus on your floor as a receipt. Cole set course for the nearest relay beacon and opened the long-range transmitter. He had a lot to report, and he was already thinking about what came next. 3 weeks later, Cole was sitting in front of a council that had not existed 3 weeks ago. The room was a repurposed orbital station conference hall, orbiting Earth at a distance that still felt like home, full of people who had spent the past 3 weeks learning words like Virith and Tarvath and Kepler contact incident very fast and with very little sleep. The table was crowded. Military officers, civilian scientists, government officials, 3 linguists who had already begun working from Cole's recordings, and a woman named Dr. Priya Ose, who ran the most advanced xenobiology department on the planet and had sent Cole 17 questions before he even landed. Cole had answered all 17. At the head of the table sat a man named Commander Lou Hatchett, who had the look of someone who had been waiting his entire career for a moment like this, and was not sure whether to be grateful or terrified. Walk us through the communication framework again, Hatchett said. Cole did. He had given this briefing twice already, but he gave it again with the same precision, because precision mattered more here than brevity. He described the chord-tone language structure, the blink-based affirmation system, the displacement metaphors Sam used when drawing relationships between things. He described the star map with the extended line. The room got very quiet at the extended line. You believe they were indicating a third party, said one of the military officers, a lean woman named Colonel Grace Farrow. I believe Sam was indicating it, Cole said. I do not know if that represents official Virith knowledge or Sam's individual assessment. What is your read on this individual, Sam? Farrow asked. Cole thought about it. Sam is a researcher who developed a conscience on a research mission. That is not unusual. I have met plenty of those. A few people smiled briefly. Most did not. Len Carver was present in the room as well, sitting at the far end of the table, and he caught Cole's eye for a moment. Len looked like someone who had processed what happened to them and come out the other side with a very particular kind of anger, the focus type, the kind that does not shout but does not stop. Cole understood that perfectly. Dr. Osi leaned forward. The extraction process, the neural mapping. Yes, you believe it was non-lethal. My crew recovered fully within 48 hours. No lasting indicators. The process was designed for data, not damage, but it was done without consent. Yes, Cole said simply. The room processed that. Hatchett clasped his hands on the table. We need to establish formal contact, real contact. Not drawings on a floor. I know, Cole said. The question is how. Cole reached into his jacket and pulled out the aluminum stylus. He set it on the table. Everyone looked at it. Sam has the other one, he said. Sam drew a line towards something neither of us had mapped. That is a warning and an invitation at the same time. He looked at Hatchett. We respond to both. We build a real communication system, not because they asked us to, but because we decide to. And we make clear, in whatever language we can manage, what the rules of engagement look like going forward. And if they don't accept those rules? Farrow asked. Cole picked up the stylus and turned it in his fingers. He thought about a gray-green alien sitting on a floor at his level, drawing prime numbers into a diagram, choosing honesty over instruction. He thought about 61 other Virith on a ship who had made different choices. Then we make sure they understand why that is a problem, Cole said. Clearly, patiently, and without any ambiguity at all. He set the stylus down. No one in the room argued with him. No one suggested a softer approach or a harder one. They had read his report. They had debriefed his crew. They had watched the recording from the Orion's Edge Bay camera, showing 6 humans walking out of a 62-crew alien warship. Through a door, Cole had figured out how to open with diagrams and a borrowed ventilation fault. They trusted him. Cole stood. I'll need a translation team, 6 people minimum with phonetic and tonal specializations. I'll need acoustic modeling for the chord tone range. I'll need an open channel to the Kepler relay beacon, because Sam still has access to the ship's communication array, and if Sam wants to talk, I want to be listening. He looked at Hatchet. And I'll need a bigger ship, because we are going back. He walked out of the conference room. In the corridor outside, Diane was waiting. She had a coffee cup in each hand, and the particular expression of someone who had already guessed what he was going to say in there before he said it. She handed him a cup. They're sending you back, she said. They are sending us back, Cole said. She looked at him. The extended line. The thing beyond both maps. Yes, you think it's bad. Cole drank the coffee. It was good coffee. He appreciated that, because there were going to be stretches ahead where good coffee would be a memory. I think it is the reason Sam sat down on the floor with me instead of standing in the doorway with the other 2, he said. Diane was quiet. I think Sam has been trying to tell somebody for a while, Cole said. We just happened to be the ones in the room. He started walking toward the docking bay, where a new ship was already being prepped on emergency assembly. Diane walked beside him, not asking further questions, which was one of the many reasons he kept bringing her along. The station hummed around them with the organized urgency of a species that had just discovered, beyond any reasonable doubt, that the universe was full and complicated, and not waiting for anyone to be ready. Cole Danner was not ready either. He was going anyway. The light at the end of the corridor was the color of deep space, blue-black and wide open, and he walked toward it with the steady, purposeful stride of a man who had already done the hardest part, which was deciding. Everything after deciding was just engineering.